The stars moved slowly across the black sky, and Earth looked quiet from space. Captain Ray stood inside the ship's main control room. His eyes stayed on the screen that showed a dark asteroid floating near Sector 9. The mission was simple: scan the area, mark any strange signals, leave without trouble. That was what the order said. Ray gave a calm nod to his crew. They had done this many times. Most days brought silence. Cold rocks, broken satellites, maybe an old space beacon blinking in the dark. But today was different. A low pulse came from the asteroid, not a normal signal. It sounded old. Too old for the systems to read clearly. Ray ordered the drone to land on the asteroid. Dust flew into space. The ground looked cracked and dry. The drone moved forward and stopped near a strange stone. Carved lines ran across its surface. They glowed faint blue. A pattern of circles and sharp edges. The language was unknown. Back on the ship, Leah looked closer. She was the ship's tech officer. Quiet, smart, always thinking before speaking. She tilted her head and whispered that the symbols did not match any known file. Not even the lost languages from old war records. Ray watched the screen as the drone picked up the relic. It was shaped like a mask, hollow inside. The edges shimmered under the ship's lights. The moment it lifted from the ground, the pulse changed. It grew louder, stronger. The ship's lights blinked once. Then again. Leah's voice cracked as she warned something was wrong. The relic gave off a sudden wave. Not a blast, not a bomb, but a message. It flew across deep space like a scream. Ray had no way to stop it. He tried to shut down the signal, but it was too late. The damage was done. Across the stars, on a hidden world where no maps reached, a giant gate opened. From its dark heart, tall figures stepped forward. Their skin was like stone. Their eyes glowed red. They moved without sound. They were the Tharkai. For thousands of years, no one spoke their name without fear. They had destroyed empires, burned planets, left nothing but dust. They answered no questions. They made no deals. To insult them meant death. No warnings. No second chance. Now they had been insulted. On Earth, alarms echoed in every command center. News feeds showed a strange symbol across the sky. It was the mark of the Tharkai. A voice followed in every language known to humans. The humans have broken the sacred line. They have touched the memory of the first. 10 days remain. After that, there will be silence. Panic spread fast. People screamed. Cities fell into chaos. Some packed bags and looked to the skies. Others fell to the ground in prayer. Some blamed Ray. Others begged for peace. No answers came. Ray stood before the council in Earth's main space hub. They looked angry, confused, afraid. One of them shouted that Ray had caused this war. Another asked why the relic was touched at all. Ray spoke with steady voice. He said, he followed the scan. There was no warning. No sign that the relic was alive. Leah stepped forward. She said the relic sent data that humans could not understand. It was not just an object. It was a key. A marker of something sacred. Something not meant to be touched by any hand. And now it was in human hands. The council had no plan. Some wanted to beg for mercy. Others wanted to hide underground. A few wanted to run. Ray stood firm. He said Earth could not run. Not this time. In space, small ships moved near Earth's moon. They did not speak. They only scanned. Their shapes looked like black wings stretched wide. No lights, no windows. Just shadow and steel. Ray's ship was called Iron Wind. It was old but fast. He called his team to gather. He told them they might not return. He said the sky would soon burn, but they had a choice. To wait or to act. They chose to act. The Iron Wind flew toward the moon. Leah worked the systems. Ray gave the signal. The first shot broke the silence. A beam of light cut through space. The enemy ship turned fast. It sent back a sharp bolt of red fire. The iron wind shook. Sparks flew inside the room. But the team held their place. They hit again and again. The enemy ship broke apart. A trail of smoke and light spilled into the stars. Earth watched in shock. A human ship had just destroyed a Thark-K scout. It had never been done before. Ray sent the footage to command. He said this was not the end. This was just the start. If one scout could fall, then others could fall too. But deep in the void, the Thark-K saw the attack. Their leader rose from the shadows, a tall shape with silver marks across the chest. It spoke one word in its own tongue. That word meant hunt. On Earth, Ray looked at the stars. His face was calm, but his thoughts were not. He knew what was coming. He knew they had only days left. But in his heart, he also knew this. They would not fall without trying, and far away, the Thark-K fleet opened its eyes. The fracture, the city lights of Earth dimmed as the fear grew deeper across the world. People filled streets with voices, full of worry. The message from the Thark-K still echoed in every corner. 10 days, they said. 10 days to prepare. 10 days before the sky would fall, Ray walked through the main hall of Earth Defense Command. His steps were heavy but firm. Around him, officers ran with files and orders. Screens showed the movement of unknown objects near the edge of the solar system. The shape of the Thark-K fleet was forming slowly, like a dark wave rising in silence inside. The war chamber, the leaders of Earth, stood in debate. Some shouted for surrender. Some cried out for hiding. One man demanded full strike before the enemy reached orbit. Ray waited and listened. He had no interest in panic. He looked only for... Senslia entered the room holding a small screen in her hand. Her face looked tired but focused. She had been working without pause. She stepped beside Ray and whispered that she found something strange inside the signal that came from the relic. Not a code. Not a threat. Something like a question. Something like a test. The council did not listen. They were too busy arguing. Ray raised his voice for the first time. He told them fear would bring nothing. He reminded them that one Thark-K ship had already fallen. If one could fall, more could follow. Earth had strength. Not in numbers, not in power, but in the will to stand still. The council split. One half wanted to open talks. The other half wanted to build shields and fire first. The room broke apart. With no final voice, Ray returned to the Iron Wind with his team. The ship rested on the high platform above the ocean. Below them, waves crashed without care for war. Ray looked at the sea and said nothing. His pilot, Ben, asked what the next move would be. Ray gave no order yet. That night a strange signal came through the ship's system. It was not from Earth. It was not from any known outpost. Leah traced it fast. It came from a dead satellite near Jupiter. A silent beacon that had not worked for years. Now it sent a message in broken words. The voice said only this: they watch you because you are different. Show them what they cannot break. Leah stared at the screen. She said it matched part of the relic's energy code. It was not human. It was not Thark-K, but it came alive after the relic moved. Ray believed it was a warning. Or maybe a clue. Back on Earth, small Thark-K ships reached orbit. They did not fire. They circled the planet like shadows with no sound. The people below looked up and waited. Every breath felt heavy. Every clock ticked like thunder. Ray spoke to the people through the world broadcast line. His face showed calm, but his voice carried weight. He told them not to wait for rescue. He told them to prepare their hearts. Not for death, but for choice. To fall on their knees or to rise together. He said no ship or shield would save Earth if the people lost hope. That speech changed something across cities. People gathered not to scream, but to build. Engineers repaired old defense towers. Mechanics rebuilt broken drones. Scientists opened files never touched before. Old plans came out from dark drawers. The people of Earth moved with purpose. The iron wind lifted again. Ray took his team into deep orbit. Their task was to study the scout paths. They watched how the Tharkai ships moved. They saw how each one circled with perfect rhythm. No errors, no emotion. No change. Leah kept studying the relic signal. She began to notice that the Tharkai ships followed patterns too perfect. Like machines without soul. She shared her thought with Ray. She said humans had something the Tharka did not understand. Emotion, sacrifice, chaos that made no sense, but often one. Ray smiled at her words. He said maybe that was the answer. The iron wind found one more scout near the Mars belt. Ray gave the order to engage. But this time they did not attack with fire. They used a decoy. A human shuttle with no weapons, but full signal lights. They flew it straight into the path of the scout. The Tharkai ship reacted fast. It charged weapons, but then it paused. The shuttle sent out an old human song through open frequency. The scout did not know what to do. It moved back, then forward, then froze. Ray used that moment. He sent a small blast to push the scout off course. It drifted into Mars orbit and vanished. They did not destroy it, but they broke its control. This action was noted across all Tharkai systems. Their main ship turned its path. No longer slow, no longer calm. It moved with speed back on Earth. The countdown reached 6 days. Ray returned with new data. He told the Council that the Tharkai fear what they do not understand. Not power, not fire, but something else. Something alive. Leah said humans must use what makes them strange. Not just logic, not just plans, but feeling. She showed a file. It was a project called Ghost Wind, a mission from long ago that used false signals and fake emotions to trick enemy sensors. It was never used because it was seen as madness. Ray asked if it could work. Leah said it might not save them, but it might confuse the enemy long enough to strike where it matters. The Council gave silent nods. Ray left the room and looked at the sky. He whispered to himself that humans always find a way. Not because they are strong, but because they never accept the end until the very last breath. Above him the stars shifted. The Tharkai fleet moved closer. The next battle would decide everything. The fire within, the sky above. Earth changed color as the Tharkai fleet came near. No sound reached the ground, but the silence itself felt louder than any storm. Space no longer looked peaceful. It looked like a battlefield waiting to wake. Ray stood on the deck of the Iron Wind. His hands rested behind his back. His eyes locked on the screen where ships shaped like black blades moved toward the planet. They flew in perfect rows, each one cold, each one deadly. Leah sat near the core console. Her fingers danced across the keys. Her face showed no fear, only thought, only focus. She had spent every hour studying the old project called Ghost Wind. The plan had been forgotten, but now it was Earth's only chance. Ray turned to his team. He spoke without raising his voice. He said this battle would not be won by strength. It would be won by making the enemy feel something they had never felt. Confusion, doubt, uncertainty. The plan was simple but risky. They would launch a full attack on the outer ships, but the weapons would not aim to destroy. They would aim to confuse. Lights, sounds, signals, patterns that made no sense to the Tharkai. Human pilots were ready. Young and old, men and women. Some had never seen war. Some had seen too much. All of them knew what they faced. Still they stepped forward, not because they were told, but because they chose to. The first wave of fighters lifted from Earth. The Iron Wind led them through the black sea of space. Each ship moved like a ghost, lights flashing in broken rhythm. Music played across open channels, laughter, crying, sounds of old Earth moments, birthdays, rain, children. The Tharkai fleet paused. They had never faced an enemy that made war. Sound like life. Leah sent false messages to their systems. She copied signals from broken codes. She created images of ships that were not there. She twisted their sensors with stories that had no end. Ray gave the order. The second wave hit the enemy lines, but the weapons fired not to kill. They fired to blind. Bright flares lit the dark. Smoke spread without air. The Tharkai ships moved in perfect lines, but their vision broke. Human fighters flew in circles. They did not follow standard moves. They moved like dancers, not soldiers. Some flew backward. Some spun with no aim. The Tharkai tried to track, but the patterns slipped from their machines. Ray flew straight toward the largest ship in the front. Row. He did not fire. He sent a signal. A message in human voice. The message said only this: we are not machines. We are not patterns. We are something else. The ship hesitated. Its weapons charged but did not release. Ray pulled away and watched the result. The Tharkai line broke for one moment. One breath. But it was enough. Back on Earth, Leah smiled for the first time in days. She said they were learning. She said confusion had begun. The battle did not stop. The Tharkai returned fire. Some human ships fell. Bright lights vanished into the dark. Names were lost. But more ships came. For each one that fell, another rose. Ray called out names of those who were gone. Not as numbers, but as people. He said them loud. He said them proud. That voice reached the enemy. They did not understand the meaning, but they felt the weight. Leah opened a final file. It was a map of the enemy command ship. She said it was old data, not complete, but enough to guide one path. Ray knew what had to be done. He told his team he would go alone. Ben stepped forward and said no. Leah stepped forward and said no. Ray said nothing. He looked at both of them. Then he smiled. They all went together. The iron wind broke through the edge of the battle. Enemy fire lit the space around them. The ship shook. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. But they kept moving. Ray sent one more message to Earth. He said this was not the end. He said this was the chance. The iron wind reached the command ship. It looked like a mountain floating in silence. No windows, no doors, just steel. But Leah found a weak point. A small line where signals crossed. They fired the last charge. The blast hit the line. The command ship did not fall, but it opened. Ray sent a pulse inside. A pulse full of human voices, human images, not of war, but of love, of music, of pain, of joy. Inside the command ship, the Tharkai saw what they never wanted to see: life without control, emotion without reason. They did not understand it, but they could not stop it. The command ship powered down for 3 full minutes. The battlefield went quiet. No ship moved, no weapon fired. Ray looked at the screen. His heart beat slow. His team waited. Then a voice came. It was not angry. It was not proud. It said one word: enough. The Tharkai ships pulled back. The command ship turned. Leah stared at the screen with wide eyes. Ray said they are not leaving because they fear us. They are leaving because they do not know what we are. Earth did not win the war, but Earth changed the game. Ray and his team floated in the quiet sky. Stars still burned, but for now the fire within had not gone out. Last stand. The night sky above Earth looked peaceful again, but no one felt peace inside their hearts. The silence after the last battle did not feel like safety. It felt like the quiet before a storm, much bigger than anything seen before. Ray stood near the main window of the iron wind. Stars blinked above him. His reflection stared back from the glass. He did not smile. He did not rest. He waited. Leah sat beside the central console. Her eyes moved across signals that continued to pulse from the Tharkai fleet. Their ships had stopped firing. They had pulled back, but they had not left. They stayed at the edge of the system. They watched. They studied. They waited too. Inside the command room of Earth Defense Council, a long table filled with tired faces. Some eyes were full of fear, some full of blame. One man spoke with anger. He said the Tharkai were only playing games. He said they would return with full force. He wanted to launch Earth's last weapons now, before it was too late. Another voice said Earth had surprised the enemy. That fear now lived in their machines. That confusion had cracked their armor. That maybe they were looking for something they had never seen before. Ray's voice came through the screen. Calm and clear. He said the Tharkai were not machines without feeling. He said they were something worse. They were minds that had lost feeling long ago. Minds that had erased emotion so deeply, they feared it now more than death. Leah stood behind him with a file in her hand. She held the truth they had just uncovered. The relic was not a weapon, not a tool. It was a question. A test left behind by the Tharkai themselves in a time before silence ruled them. Long ago, the Tharkai had been more than what they were now. They had heart. They had art. They had feeling. But they feared loss. They feared pain. So they erased all things that brought sorrow. They became perfect, but that perfection came with a price. They forgot why they existed, so they placed the relic in space, waiting for a race who would dare touch it, waiting for a species who would awaken the memory buried in silence. Ray said. The relic had chosen Earth, not by mistake, but by chance, by courage, by chaos. The Council did not fully believe, but they had no better answer. And time was short. Above the dark side of the moon, a second Tharkai fleet arrived. Their shape formed like a wall across the stars. No sound came, no message followed. But Earth knew what this meant. The final move. Ray turned to Leah. She looked at him without words. She nodded once. Then she handed him the last program she had written. It was not a weapon. It was a story. A beam of memories and emotions collected from voices across Earth. From children, from elders, from those who had loved and lost, from those who had nothing but still hoped. Ray uploaded the beam into the Iron Wind signal system. It would send the story through light, through energy, through every frequency. The Tharkai could hear. Ben prepared the engines. The Iron Wind would fly straight into the heart of the Tharkai fleet. Not to fight, not to break, but to speak in a way no human ever had. Not with words, but with soul. The command from Earth said no. They said it was suicide. They said it was madness. Ray said that maybe madness was what the Tharkai needed to see. The Iron Wind lifted without permission. It rose through clouds without fear. It passed the edge of the sky and entered the Black Sea where war had waited. The Tharkai ships moved to attack. But Ray gave the signal. The story beam activated. Lights poured into space like waves. Images filled the void. A mother holding her child. A dog barking in a field. Rain falling on a window. A hand reaching for another hand in darkness. Fireworks, music, laughter, loss. The Tharkai scanners picked up the signal. Their systems read no weapons, no threat, just feelings, just chaos, just life. Their front lines began to slow inside. Their command ship. Something happened that had not happened for thousands of years. A memory woke. The leader of the Tharkai stood still. His mind opened to the flood of emotion. For the first time he remembered his own past. A time when he had a name. A time when he had love. A time when he had fear, not of weakness, but of emptiness. He ordered the fleet to hold position. Ray continued forward. He did not turn back. He sent a final message to the Tharkai. You fear what we are, because you buried what you were. You silence what you do not understand. But we do not fight to win. We fight because we feel because we live, and that is something no machine will ever take from us. The Tharkai leader closed his eyes. He saw not an enemy, he saw a mirror. The command ship lowered its weapons. One by one, the rest followed. The black wall broke, not with fire, not with war, but with stillness. The voice of the Tharkai leader came through all channels. One word only enough. Earth watched in silence. War had not been lost. It had not been won. It had been stopped, not by power, but by memory, by feeling, by the fire within. Ray looked at Leah. Her eyes held tears. But her lips held a smile. The iron wind floated between two worlds, one ruled by silence, one ruled by sound. Both changed forever. The shifting new sun rose over the mountains of Earth. Its light spread across broken cities and silent roads. People came out of shelters with slow steps. Some looked at the sky with fear still hiding in their hearts. Others fell to their knees with tears in their eyes. The war had stopped. The enemy had stepped back. But the world did not know why Ray stood at the landing bay of Earth's main base. The iron wind had returned without damage, but not without weight. His face showed no pride, only peace. He looked at the flag waving in the soft morning air. Not as a symbol of power but of survival. Leah walked beside him holding the small device that carried the relic's final data. Her fingers touched the surface with care. She had not slept. She had not spoken much. But her eyes told everything. They had done something no one else had dared. They had spoken to the dead hearts of the galaxy's most feared beings and made them listen. The council sat again. This time the room was quiet. No shouting, no panic. Just silence and eyes fixed on Ray. One of the elders stood slowly. His voice calm and clear. He asked what had really happened. He asked why the Tharkai had left without fire. Ray answered with no delay. He said they left because they remembered. He said the story beam was not just emotion, it was truth. It showed the Tharkai what they had buried, what they had locked away. A life with heart. A life with pain. A life with meaning. Another leader asked what the Tharkai wanted now. Were they gone forever or just waiting? Leah stepped forward. She said the relic had one last message, not a threat, not a warning. An invitation. A single ship arrived near Earth's orbit. It did not carry weapons. It did not send fear. It waited in silence until a signal was sent from Earth. Then it opened a pathway, and Leah boarded a smaller craft. They flew toward the ship with no escort, no shield, no fear. Just trust. The doors opened as they came near. Inside the halls glowed with soft light. No guards stood in place. No machines moved to block them. They were greeted not by soldiers, but by beings who looked different from the ones seen in war. These were old, calm. Their skin carried the marks of memory. Their voices held no anger. They spoke not with power, but with respect. The Tharkai leader stood tall with eyes that no longer burned red. He looked at Ray, then at Leah. He said the relic was made in a time when the Tharkai still felt. It was meant to find those who had not yet lost the light. Inside, he said, Earth had done what no other race had done. They had answered the question not with force, but with feeling. He offered a new bond, not alliance of war, not treaty of rules, but something deeper and confenduos. Exchange of truth, the right to share stories, the right to share pain, the right to remain different and still be heard. Ray accepted with a short nod. He said, Earth had nothing perfect to give, but they had something honest. Leah added that feelings were not weakness, they were the path, and the Tharkai agreed. The message spread fast across systems near and far. Worlds that had once hidden began to rise again. Old enemies opened doors, once closed. The galaxy began to shift, not toward peace maybe, but toward understanding. Ray returned to Earth with new purpose. He did not take command again, he became a voice. Traveled to cities speaking not of war, but of choice. He told the young that courage was not found in weapons, but in standing for something unseen. Leah built a center near the old capital. It held data from the relic. It played the story beam for all to feel. Children visited with open eyes. Elders came and wept. The place became a garden of memory. Years passed. The iron wind was placed in a museum, its wings still proud, its glass still clear. Visitors walked beside it and read the names of those who flew that day, not as heroes, but as reminders that heart can change what fear cannot. Ray sat one evening by the sea. The wind touched his face like an old friend. He watched the sun melt into the water beside him. Leah placed her hand over his. She whispered that The stars had learned something new, that even the deadest hearts can beat. Again, Ray nodded slow. He said the fight was never about saving Earth, it was about saving something inside. Earth, something lost in many, but still burning in few, and now the fire had spread above them. A new signal appeared in the sky. Not a threat, not a command, just light, shaped like a circle with lines running through. The mark of the relic, the sign of change. A voice came from above, calm and deep. It said, "We see you, we know you, we thank." Ray smiled for the first time in many days. Leah looked at him and said, "Well done, human. You did not win the war, you ended it. And sometimes that is more the end